If you have enough money to solve a problem, you don't have a problem. Dan Sullivan. You have the power to be the boss of your own life. I'm your host, Monica Allen. I'm a wife, mom, entrepreneur, best-selling author, lifelong learner, and your biz bestie. I have a love and passion for all things small business. Growing my own company from $700 to over 7 figures annually, my goal is to bring you inspiration, business-focused topics and tips, encouragement, and a community that helps you launch, grow, and scale your business, whether you are a dreamer, a side hustler, or a seasoned entrepreneur. You are listening to the Become Your Own Boss podcast. Welcome to another Boss Up Books episode. It's been a while since we've dived into a book that I think can truly enhance our entrepreneurial journey. In full disclosure, I've been reading mostly fiction lately. I recently enjoyed sharing the book Pride with my daughter, who read it for her advanced humanities class. It is a more modern take on Pride and Prejudice. And I really enjoyed sharing conversations with her around the book. We talked about the characters, we talked about the plot. It was just a great way for us to connect. And then I picked up another couple of books when she and I went to Barnes & Noble a few weeks ago. But today, I am thrilled to discuss with you Who, Not How, the formula to achieve bigger goals through accelerating teamwork by Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan, a book that I've read 3 times now. Or I should say I've listened to 3 times now, because I do a lot of books on Audible. Even though when I do a Boss Up Books episode, I do like to buy the hard copy. So I've actually gotten the hard copy to this book, but I've listened to it 3 times. And you may recall, if you've listened for a while, that I've actually gone over another one of Dr. Benjamin Hardy's books called 10X is Easier Than 2X last year on a Boss Up Books episode. So if you found that interesting, you'll also find this episode insightful, and this book is amazing. Back in episode 91 of this podcast, I talked about a concept that I created called DOTS. And DOTS stands for Delegating, Outsourcing, Technology, and Tools to Scale Your Business. And picking up Who, Not How, which I think I learned about through another podcast, it really resonated with me because I truly believe in delegating. Ethan and I have believed in delegating since probably pretty early on in our business. Neither one of us have ever really done the lawn at our home. Anything that requires like major maintenance, neither one of us are YouTubing that to try to figure it out. I even have a guy who assembles everything that I need for my house, because years ago, he and I decided that the amount of money that we would save, and I put that in air quotes, that we would save doing it ourselves would not equate to the amount of money we could make if we were able to focus on our business. And then once we added kids to the mix, it's like, do I want to spend time doing this or spend time with the kids? So delegating and outsourcing has been our thing. But Who, Not How takes it even farther. It's deeper than just delegating. And I just want to share with you a few of my takeaways from the book. Again, I do recommend you pick it up because there's so much more to it. There's so much meat and so many stories and anecdotes in the book that I feel like as entrepreneurs, we can probably all resonate with. So I do recommend you pick up the book. But the first takeaway I had was having an investment mindset. Unlike the early days when Ethan and I started, and we started our business in our 20s, so we really had a lot to learn. But seeing the labor cost on the profit and loss statement, I have always seen team members as a cost. But this book talks about shifting that perspective and viewing team members as an investment. And not even just team members, because technically a who might be someone outside of your organization that you engage in helping you get something done. But viewing it as an investment, the right who can exponentially increase your capacity to earn and grow. So that whole mindset shift of a who being an investment stood out to me. The second takeaway is the power of who. The power of asking a different question. So instead of getting bogged down by the how, asking, how can I do something? Instead, you want to ask, who can help me achieve this? This approach not only saves time, but also leverages expertise, which allows you to focus on what you do best. It allows you to provide the who with your clear vision, and then they figure out the how. I think this is where Ethan and I went wrong back in the day. We weren't strategic enough. We didn't think through a clear vision. And don't get me wrong, we've had meetings and we would have vision meetings on an annual or sometimes quarterly basis with our team. But early on, after we moved our business out of our house, we weren't clear on the vision other than we opened the store. We wanted it to be really successful. We thought the work would come, so we hired for that. But the work didn't come, which led us to taking on some debt to make sure we could pay people. So we were investing. We were investing in these people. The problem was they weren't the right who's. And so that's another key, is having the right who in your organization or whatever you're working on, making sure you have the right who. But that debt led to stress for me. And honestly, I think it led to a little trauma for me because over the past few years, I've been very hesitant about bringing in new who's. But this book is helping me. I am changing my mindset. It's an investment, and it will ultimately help us free up time so we can then focus on some other things. Those other things will allow us to build better relationships and focus on our purpose, which is my third takeaway: freedom through collaboration. This book breaks down how finding the right who can free you up from the mundane task, which gives us liberty to focus on earning more revenue for the business, building those relationships that are key and pivotal, not only for the business, but for our life's purpose, building those spaces. And I see it happening as of late even. Ethan is going around the country. He's talked to multiple people around marketing and artificial intelligence and how to use it in your business. And with each talk, he meets new people. He builds better, bigger relationships. He makes more connections. So freeing up that time and finding the right who's and putting them in place is amazing. And this book has led me to really think about these things more strategically, where I didn't think about that in that way in my late 20s, early 30s. As I mentioned before, Ethan and I, we are so good when it comes to delegating. But it's interesting because looking at household things, lawn care, even outsourcing grocery shopping, right? There's a certain piece of it where you have to let go, relinquish some control, which is also discussed in this book. Because what I realize, and I talk to people sometimes about Instacart, and they're like, I just can't do that. I need to pick out my own produce. And on one hand, I get it, but I had to relinquish that control. So I pushed that aside. I put notes in there and asked the person who's shopping to look at the produce, look underneath the carton or underneath the bag to make sure there's not rotten grapes or anything. But you have to relinquish some control when you give things to others, delegate things to others. But what I love about, and I know I keep saying I love this book, but I really do. What I love, though, that they make clear in this book is that you have to communicate a vision. You have to communicate a clear, concise vision, and you have to let people know what successful completion looks like. And so that can be done with my Instacart driver, but that could also be done with a who for something else, be it my website, in the business, some other things I may need. It's really about communicating that vision. This book just really made me reconsider our approach to hiring, not only thinking through the right who's, but also looking at our team structure and strategizing on making sure we're integrating the right people to propel us forward. And don't get me wrong, we have a great team, but there was a point in time where we thought our team was great, but we kind of took our hands off the wheel because of that. And on one hand, that is what this book wants you to do. You want to be able to kind of walk away from your business. Dan Sullivan leaves his business for 3 months every year, which is amazing to me. And so I would love to be able to get to that point someday soon. And I know in order to do that, though, we've got to find the right who's and really make sure they have a clear vision and what success looks like in that vision. So that requires us as leaders to be very systematic, very strategic, and thinking through the goals. Now, one of the things that I don't feel like this book addresses is how to afford the who's. And as Dan Sullivan quotes at the top of this episode, I read his quote. It says, if you have enough money to solve a problem, you don't have a problem. And that's very true, because if you can hire someone to handle anything, that's amazing. But the issue most of us small business owners have is that we may not have the cash flow to hire all of the who's that we need. And perhaps that's one of the things that I could learn by joining Strategic Coach, which I actually am considering. But having that cash flow, and it's kind of like, what comes first? I've talked about this before. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? And so I'm taking a little bit of a different approach right now. I'm really trying to free up cash flow to be able to hire some who's, knowing that those who's, though, strategically, knowing that those who's will free up my time so then I can make more revenue. And then we can continue to reinvest that in more who's. But what I've also noticed is, and I don't know if it was on purpose or not, I guess it was on purpose. We're pretty good leaders. But before, we were very much adamant about hiring people as full-time employees, making sure they have benefits and all of these things. And now, which I didn't even really realize this, but Ethan laid out a map of where we have people the who's that help us in our business currently. They're all over the world now. He laid this out because we actually are hiring 2 new people in production. And we have a freelance designer in North Carolina, a freelance person in Pakistan, someone in India. So we are utilizing services from all over the world, who's from all over the world. And I never really thought about that before, but that helps frees up cash flow, and we're not paying necessarily Medicare and Social Security matches and a lot of things that are expenses for the business. So just kind of thinking that through. I do think as entrepreneurs, we are here to solve problems. And so we've got to look at our businesses and decide who are the who's we need, who will help us achieve certain things. And then we have to decide the best way to implement that who. And it may not be a full-time person. It may be a virtual assistant. It may be a freelancer. It may be someone on Fiverr. It may be a one-off project person that does something for us. We have so many opportunities and options these days. As I wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with one very powerful quote from this book. I love this. It says, "The power of having a who is you instantly get access to knowledge, insights, resources, and capabilities that are not currently available to you." That, to me, is the beauty of building strong, strategic relationships. And it's also not just about hiring people, but it's also about engaging with people who can open doors to new opportunities. And truthfully, you might be a who for someone. You probably are a who for someone. And they talk about that in the book as well. You being a who, you having the right who's, and really making those relationships collaborative. Anyway, again, I truly suggest you get a copy of Who Not How by Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. It's a fantastic read, and I think it offers profound insights into simplifying your entrepreneurial journey by focusing on who can help, not just how you can do it all yourself. If you pick up the book, please let me know what you think. I would just love to hear your insights as well and what your takeaways are. I also want to leave you with a bit of a challenge, and I'm going to do this for myself as well. Take a look at your goals that you set for yourself this year and see where you can plug in a who that's not you. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm grateful for you. Also, if you're looking for more tips on business success, check out my newly updated ebook on my website. It's free and packed with actionable advice. The 11 Secrets to Small Business Success can be downloaded at my website, monicaallen.com. And this is really 11 tips or 11 things that I feel like we've done in our business that has helped us scale over the years. So it's free for you. Just head to my website. Remember, as I often tell my son, readers are leaders. So let's read. And also remember, now is the time. Now is the time to level up, leave a legacy, and become your own boss.